Well, good morning again, everybody. Thank you for coming out.
Can Sue hear you?
Can Sue hear me? All right. Just do one of these, and I'll like jump on the mic and get even closer.
Next week she should drive down.
Oh yeah. I should tell her that.
Yes, tell her I do.
You can just drive down next week.
Point.
Park right here. Yeah. We're going to continue on with our journey through Philippians today. Last week, and the last couple weeks, Paul's been telling the Philippians that as citizens of Jesusopolis, he's like, you guys should act like you're citizens of heaven. And as citizens of heaven, as citizens of Jesusopolis, that they should have, he said last week, have the mind, or not, it wasn't last week, it was like 3 weeks ago, huh? We've been gone, yeah. There was like a gap. It was like a gap in there. But last time we were together, he told them that as citizens of Jesusopolis, that they should have the mind of Christ. Or what we saw in the original language, that means to find their advantage in knowing or having the wisdom of Jesus in this. And we saw that that means, and Paul just broke down, he sang this little song, right? There's like this old song they had back then they think this came from, and it breaks down the gospel, the good news, and everything that Jesus is real briefly and really well. It says that he didn't have to try to be God. He didn't have to try and be powerful. He just was. He was. He is. He always will be. And coming from that vantage point, he came not to be served, but to be a servant. You remember all those times walking around, he's like, everybody need to bow down and worship me right here. No, he wasn't doing that. He was going around and he was serving people. He was loving people. He was serving people. He was bringing people in to his family to sit at his table. And that's just a beautiful thing. Not to be served, but to be a servant. He came to lead by example, to establish that upside-down kingdom that we talk about a lot, where you become great by being the servant of all. You don't claw your way to the top. You're serving your way down to the bottom to love people. And that's, take everything about power and empire here on this earth, turn it upside down, and that's what he came to do. Establish that upside-down kingdom and to serve humanity all the way to the cross and beyond the cross and to the grave and beyond the grave to where he was living again. So to serve all through that, to the cross, through the cross, into all eternity. It's good news, right? I'm encouraged by that. I love that. So Paul called them the Philippians not to build empires of their own. He's like, you guys are living under an empire. You're living under Rome. It's not good. You guys don't like it. They're not a big fan of this Jesus thing that you guys are following. So what I want you guys to do in your church is not to build more empires in your church, but to follow the example of Jesus, to be servants of all, figure out how you can serve each other, love each other, to not be showy, to not work on your brand and, look really cool, to care for others as you care for yourself. So we pick it up today in verse 12, Philippians chapter 2, verse 12. It says, therefore, my dear friends, as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. So he says, therefore, and when he says therefore, you got to ask what it's there for. It's therefore, so because of what came before this, because you are citizens of heaven, because you should live like citizens of heaven, not citizens of Rome, because you should live in unity and mutually serving each other, because Jesus provides the mind or the logic of humility and servanthood that we should model ourselves after. Therefore, because of these things, as you have always obeyed, whether I'm there to see it or not, as you have always obeyed. We need to be obedient to God when people are looking and when people aren't looking. It's really easy. I like obeying God when people are looking and like, oh, look what an obedient person he is. But then there's times when we're alone and when nobody's looking, we need to obey God then too. And this church was doing that. They were obeying God when Paul was there. It's like, oh, the pastor's here. Act good, right? And when Paul wasn't there, they were still being obedient. So whether he was there looking or not, whether anybody was looking, They were doing the right thing because it's the right thing. And that's one of our bumper sticker truisms here in this church. Do the right thing because it's the right thing. All the time, right? Continue to work out, he says, your salvation with fear and trembling. So it means they were doing that. He says, I want you guys to continue in this. We need to be careful not to interpret this as salvation by works. Right? Not work for salvation with fear and trembling. It does not say that. In fact, the Bible says that salvation does not come by works, lest any man should boast, right? Because if it was by works, and some people could do it really good, and some people couldn't, some guys sit up here and go, look at how saved I am right now, right? So nobody's going to boast. So salvation does not come by works, and that's not what it's saying here. This is directed to a group of folks who were already saved. This is directed to church people who were following Jesus. Now, they're in our relationship with God, and in all of our relationships, really, in a husband-wife marital relationship, there's initiation and response. In our relationship with God, there's initiation and response. God initiates, and we then respond. In the original language, this work out your salvation literally means to activate your salvation. It doesn't sound like an action film. Activate salvation, right? Activate your salvation. And that means that a relationship with God is not a finish line. It's a starting gun. So it's not where you quit. It's like, yep, I'm saved. I'm done. I'm going to take it easy now. No, that's not it. It's a starting line. You're just getting started once you have that salvation, once you have that relationship with God. It's not a time to sit down and rest. Woo, boy, I'm saved and I'm exhausted. I'm gonna have a seat. Take it easy for a while. It's a time to get up and do. When we started, we have video of this that some of you guys have seen, where we're starting the John Muir Trail. We're geared up. We each have like 35, 40 pounds. We're carrying on our backs. We got all our stuff. We trained. All that was left to do was the hike. All that was left to do was to walk for 220 miles. And we're standing there. We got up, and where we started was at Happy Isles, where we would go up to Vernal Falls and Nevada Falls, that trailhead there. And we're standing there, and there's a sign that says, John Muir Trail, Mount Whitney, 200 plus miles out there. Like, wow, okay, here we go. And we got video of our feet taking the first step. It's not like we got there and like, all right, we're on the trail. I got to take a nap. I got to take it easy. Where's the food, right? And we were joking, as we're like walking along about 5 steps in. I'm like, are we there yet? And so, it's not a time to stop, but it's a time, you're just getting started. It's a time to do. It's a time to move. It's a time to go. The New Living Translation gets this really good, as they put it. It says, work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear. So Paul tells the Philippian church to work out their salvation. And I saw this, I'm like, picture Paul, you work out, right? And I think it's kind of what he was actually saying. I was chuckling a little bit, but I'm like, no, I think that's more right, than me sitting here chuckling thinking about it. You work out, and picture him with his headband and his muscle shirt. Work out, yeah. And that's what he was actually asking them. Work out. Do you work out? Are you working out? Are you activating your relationship with God with reverence and fear? And I think it is like working out your body, and it is like working out your mind. It's very similar in how that works. You don't work out your body so you can have a body, right? You got a body. You don't work out your brain and learn things with your brain and, do Sudoku or whatever that is, those little puzzly things that are supposed to be good for you. So you can have a brain. You've got the brain. Now you're working to make it better. You train or exercise so you can have a better body or a better brain or the best and most efficient body or brain that you can possibly have. The same goes for faith. You work out your faith so you can have the best and most efficient faith possible. The best and most efficient relationship with your Creator, with Almighty God that you can. They say those puzzles are good. you should like keep your brain engaged as you age. And I probably ought to do more of that. Then I wouldn't forget things at home on Sunday. But they say it's a good thing, to use those puzzles to keep your brain as sharp as possible as you age, so that you can, still remember things and keep it functioning. If you don't use it, you lose it, and that's true of so many things. It's true of, when our physical activity, our brain activity, our faith activity. You don't lose it. Not like you're going to lose your salvation, but you're going to lose effectiveness. You're going to lose the good stuff that you could be having through that. Learning to play guitar is one of those things where, right, if your hand wants to do this, all your fingers, they're used to working as a team. They want to work together, and they do this. Part of playing guitar is making them work independently. Making them where they want to do this, you got to make them be independent little guys, right? And that takes muscle memory and training. It doesn't come naturally. You have to just do it and do it and do it until it happens. Whatever you want to do in life, you have to put effort in to learn and to get good at it and get the most from it. Everything's like that. That's your job. That's your career, your hobbies, things you do for fun. Everything you gotta, hunting, fishing, sewing, whatever you do, you got to do and learn as you go along, so that you can do it better and have, a more fruitful and productive time doing it. Your relationship with your Creator is no exception to that. You don't want to invite God into your life and then sit down and take a nap. You want to invite God into your life. It's like, wow, okay, now I need to ask questions. I got questions. Ask questions. Express doubts. A lot of churches struggle with that. They don't think it's good that you would express doubts. This is a safe place where if we got doubts, we can vocalize and we can say it. You can't work through it until you vocalize it and let people work through it with you. So have doubts. Express doubts. Marvel and wonder in the mystery of God. As you start to have some understanding of God and realize that there's more that you will never understand than you can possibly understand on this earth, marvel at that. Look out at His creation. Look at what He's done. Look at who He is. Marvel in the wonder and the mystery of God. Have gratitude, right? I like to approach each day with thankfulness. If I don't feel thankful, I'm still going to approach it with thankfulness, because I got things to be thankful for. Approaching it with gratitude. Get frustrated. Get frustrated with God. So we don't just come to our relationship with God and then sit down and not do anything. We got to move on, and sometimes it's a little uncomfortable. Allow God to stretch you and make you uncomfortable as you go along. It's a rare thing that God will oh good, you come into a relationship with me, I'm just going to put you in this fluffy chair and just leave you there. It's like, okay, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're going for a ride. That's more how it actually is. This is how we work out. This is how we train in our faith. If you want to be a champion, you have to do what a champion does. And you look at champions, people that are really good at things, and they don't get that way by resting. They are at it. They are hard after it. They're passionate. They're doing it. And they're moving along and getting better as they go. An ultramarathoner doesn't become an ultramarathoner by being comfortable and avoiding challenge. Right? We finished the John Muir Trail. It popped out at Mount Whitney, the very end of the trail, and we were feeling pretty good about that. And then we heard cheering, and there were people that had run over 100 miles from Death Valley below sea level to where we were coming out at 8,000 feet. And, it was like a 100-mile ultramarathon race, and I didn't feel so accomplished after seeing these guys come in. But they didn't get to be able to do that by being comfortable, by backing off and not avoiding challenge. So Paul says, activate your salvation, train in your faith to get the maximum from it, and do it with fear and with trembling. Now this fear and trembling is not necessarily the wait until your father gets home kind of thing. Anybody remember that? Where mom was so fed up with you, she wasn't even going to deal with you anymore. You wait till your dad gets home. Go to your room, you go to your room and you're sitting there like a prisoner on death row. It's over. It's all done, man. Dad's coming home and I got to face dad. That's, there's a time when we as believers need to be taken to the woodshed, and God will be happy to do that when we need it for our benefit, but that's not necessarily what Paul's talking about here. Bible says that the Lord disciplines those that he loves, but what Paul is saying here is activate and work out as if in the presence of something magnificent and powerful. Have you ever been outside in nature somewhere and just experienced not being in control of anything? It happens. There are tornadoes out there. There's winds. There are things you can't control out there, and sometimes you're just there, and you just got to ride it out because you are not in control. We've been fortunate enough a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, to see Yosemite Falls from a vantage point that most people don't, and that's the top. There's this trail, this savage, brutal, I highly recommend it, but it's savage, brutal trail that goes like zigzags and goes up the side of that mountain to the top of the falls, and you get up there, and there's a rail where you can walk right up to the edge, and you can watch that first cascade going off, and you feel a little powerless out there. You feel like you're not in charge. Gravity works, water is powerful, and just up from that, there's this nice quiet pool, and there's signs all over that say don't go in the water, because it's like 1,200 feet, that first cascade off to where it hits rock, and you get up there and you just feel like you're not in control. You feel a little powerless up there. One of my favorite examples of this I was thinking of is something that I don't do, and that's surfing. Surfers that are really good, professional surfers. The ocean is powerful, and I'm not good in the water. I get up to this edge of the ocean and I'm like, this is where I should stay because I'm not a very strong swimmer. I'm good. I respect the power of the ocean. I like to be close to it. I like to hear it. I like to smell it. I like to feel the spray of the waves coming in. It's just so good. But I don't want to go in because I'm not a good swimmer. I know my limitations, and I have a respect for the power and the current of the ocean. Pro surfers like to go out in it. They train. They train to be strong. They train to be flexible. They train to be good, and to do whatever it takes to stay upright on their surfboard. I could go out there and fall down with the best of them, but I'm probably not coming back. And they fall down, they learn how to get up, they learn, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of core strength and flexibility and balance to stay on that thing and ride those waves. If you've ever watched pro surfers, but it's impressive, especially those big, huge, giant super waves that they get on sometimes. They get them out by Half Moon Bay, and I know they get them down in Australia, where they're like, yep, good surf's coming, and they'll fly in and they'll ride these waves. That's impressive. It's impressive to watch. And then Paul says, for it is God who works in you to will and to act to fulfill his good purpose. The pro surfers can't control the waves, and they're quite aware of that. Some days, and in some places, the waves are epic. Epic surf, dude. And some days, not so much. Some days it's like, these little tiny waves coming in. But they train. They train to be ready for those epic waves when they happen. They don't want the epic waves to come around and be out of shape, day drinking, drooling into their belly buttons when they come. They want to be ready, right? Sitting in an easy chair. No, they want to be ready for those waves when they come. They can't control when the waves show up. They can't control what the waves do, where the waves go, but they're ready. They are ready, and they respect the power of the water. They do the work to be in control of themselves so they can allow the power of the waves and the currents to carry them along, to take them wherever the wave is going. And in our faith, man, I just want to get on that wave. My faith, I want to get on that wave, and I want it to take me. We don't know where God is going, what God is doing, but we get on that wave, and if we're doing our part, man, we can stay on the board, and we fall down, we get up, we fall down, we get up, we fall down, we get up, until we can balance on that board and just ride that wave out wherever he's going, whatever he's doing. I just want to get on that wave, but it carry me where it's going, where God has taken it. This is a good description of what it's like to follow Jesus, the surfing thing. So I hope I ruined surfing for you. And every time you see a surfboard or a surfer, you're thinking, yep, faith. That's my relationship with God right there. Fall down, get up, fall down, get up, get back on, stay on that thing, train, be strong, balance, core strength, all that, and just ride that thing wherever God's taking you. So as we start to wrap it up here, faith is an adventure sport. I want you to think of faith as an adventure sport. Faith is our faith in God, our relationship with God. It's not safe. It's not comfortable. It's an adventure sport. We can't control God and what He's doing or what He's going to do. We are in control of ourselves. And that's what that work out, man. Working out your salvation, that's what that means. We're in control of ourselves and our own readiness to move with Him when the epic waves come. Also note that Paul says to work out your salvation. Don't work out somebody else's. Work out your own. You got your own thing going on. Your own salvation. There's a saying out there on the trails like hike your own hike. And we had ultralighters. Oh, it sounded big. We had ultralight hikers that were, we'd see every so often, and they're just like, these are the people that will cut their toothbrush off to save weight. Like, they'll bring a toothbrush, but they cut the handle off and just bring this little, because they don't want to carry that extra weight. We weren't that extreme. I like to be comfortable. You figure out what's important to you, and you hike your own hike in your own way. And our faith is a lot like that too. Made me also think of Bill Belichick. Do your job. Don't worry about if he's doing his job. Don't worry about if he's doing his job. You do your job. You do what God's called you to do. I was reading a story yesterday about somebody you may probably have never heard of. And I'm probably going to murder this name. Hari Buddha Magar. Everybody heard of him? No. I hadn't before yesterday. I was reading this story. He's a guy, he's from Gurkha, which is in India. He was a veteran of the British Army. And he'd always had a dream of climbing Mount Everest. He's like right there, close to Nepal and the Himalayas. And he always wanted to climb Mount Everest. And then when he was serving in the British military, he lost both his legs in an IED explosion in Afghanistan. So after losing his legs, he was actually excluded from even attempting an Everest ascent. They had double amputees and blind people. They forbade them to go and make an attempt on the mountain to save the amount of dead people coming off the mountain or people dying up there. It's dangerous. Everest is a dangerous endeavor. So his dream was gone. His legs were gone. He got depressed. He kind of gave up on everything. Started drinking way too much. He even tried to take his own life at one point. He was just depressed. And at some point, things somehow were able to turn around for him. He was able to turn things around in his heart and his mind. So he went to work and he got that ban on double amputees on Everest overturned. So it was on. And he became the first double above-the-knee amputee to summit Everest. I'm sure his training and his ascent looked way different than some people. He had to hike his own hike. Most people have like full legs when they go up there, and it's still hard. He was like, no legs from here down. His equipment looked different. They had pictures of his prosthetic legs with ice crampons instead of feet on the bottom. So he had to adapt, and his gear looked a little different. I'm sure his training looked a little different. Dude had some pretty in-shape arms, and I'm sure he was having to capitalize on what he had, train hard with what he had to make that happen. But he did it. He did it. I was inspired by that. I'm like, man. And not only that, at the end of it, he gets back and he's like, I probably never would have chased after that and actually done it if I had my legs. So it's like, I am glad everything happened. He says, everything happens for good. And because that happened, it like lit a fire and got me to where I was more willing to chase after it and to do it. He trained, he streamlined his body as it was, and he saw the top of Everest under his own power. That is amazing. So today, got a little word from your coach. I'm going to be your coach today. Or what's a coach except somebody who's been around a little longer doing things and falling down more. Seen a few things. And I'm not, not everybody's coach, but I'm your coach today. Yeah. So I'm talking to champions today. champions and potential champions. You guys got it in you to do this, right? I'm going to give you locker room talk today. This is a word from your coach. I've dropped the ball plenty. I've fallen off the surfboard, and I've learned to get back on. And that's something that a coach can impart. So as your coach, I'm going to tell you that in your solitary times, and there will be solitary times, there's always times when you're alone, when you're training. I like solitary training. I'm not much of a competitive guy. I like to compete with myself. And there are times when the training is solitary. And in those solitary times, be self-disciplined and do the right thing. All right? Sounds pretty easy. I'm sure that even an ultramarathoner stands there at the cake section in the grocery store. Man, that'd be good. Or, sitting there looking at the candy bars in line. I could eat about 10 of those, but they don't. They're doing the right thing. Even they know what they want. They know what they want to be, where they want to go. They want to be ready for whatever God is doing with them. And so, they eat more kale instead of that Snickers bar that they want so badly. So, in the solitary times, do the right thing. Also, spend time with your teammates. Teammates are important. You learn from your teammates. You watch these guys, and they, like the Super Bowl, if somebody drops the ball, somebody from the team doesn't come up and go, "You suck. You should quit. You shouldn't be doing this anymore. You should never have played this game." They're usually trying to build each other up and, maybe give a little insight. Man, I saw what happened right there. And maybe next time if you do this, you'll be able to hang on to that ball. Spend time with your teammates, learning from them and helping each other grow up and go further. That's what teammates do. And have coaches and mentors and listen to them. And when you fail, keep going. Always get up one more time, then you fall. That's where the success happens. So, you work out. Right? Work out, go. Think of it that way, as you go forth and how you're training, what you're doing to better your relationship with God, to get you that most effective, most rewarding relationship that you can have. Are you in there? Are you ready when God, as your wave starts to crest, man? Are you going to be in that tube riding that thing out, or are you going to be like, on the beach? I'll be on the beach with real surfing. I want to be in the tube with God. I want to be on the beach with real surfing. But man, just work it out as though you have a relationship with something magnificent and wonderful. Lord, we thank you again for the day. We thank you for this. This is encouraging today. I love that. And I pray that we would all walk away from here encouraged, Lord, that if, whether we're at the top of our game, whether we are down and feeling defeated, freshly fallen, Lord, that you would dust us off and get us up. Help us to dust each other off and get ourselves and get each other back up onto our feet again to keep going. It's all about getting up one more time than we fall. We're not called to be perfect, Lord. You have done that for us, but we are learning as we go. We just pray that we would train hard, that we would train like it matters in our faith as we do with our hobbies and anything else in our lives, Lord, that we would want to be the best we can, to have the best reward and the best walk with you that we can, Lord. And I just pray that we'd be thinking about that and thinking about how we might do that as we go today. And we give you all the thanks and the glory for your grace, Lord, that makes it possible for us. You did the hard work of salvation, and we just got to show up now, Lord. Help keep us showing up. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.